Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April Town Commission meeting of the Town of Ocean Ridge. Tracy, would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Commissioner Askoff,
Present.
Vice Mayor Bonfiglio,
Present.
Commissioner Cos,
Present.
Commissioner Magruder,
Present.
and Mayor Pugh.
Here. Okay, everyone, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. All right, Tracy, we're ready to announce the election results, swear in our two new, actually one new and one returning
Yes, sir.
commissioners.
The Town of Ocean Ridge currently has 1,600 registered voters, and 500 ballots were cast at the March 14th Town Commissioner election, which was a 31.25% turnout. The results were Richard Bajakian, 164 votes, James Bonfiglio, 249 votes, Don Magruder, 319 votes, and Nan Yablong, 168 votes. And if you would like to stand, I will swear you in. You would raise your right hand, thank you. I, and state your name, please,
I, James Bonfiglio. Don Magruder.
do solemnly swear or affirm
Solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida
and of the state of Florida
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
domestic or foreign,
domestic or foreign,
that I will bear true faith,
that I will bear true faith,
loyalty, and allegiance to the same,
loyalty, and allegiance to the same,
that I am entitled to hold office
that I am entitled to hold office
of the state of Florida,
of the state of Florida,
that I will faithfully perform all the duties
that I will faithfully perform all the duties
of the office of Town Commissioner
of the office of Town Commissioner
of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida,
of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida,
on which I am about to enter,
of which I am about to enter,
so help me God.
so help me God.
All right, thank you, Tracy. All right, we're looking at the agenda, any additions, deletions, or modifications? All right, hearing none. Since the consent agenda only has the minutes on it, and I'd like to see if somebody can make a motion approving both the agenda and the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
Second.
Question is second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, public comment. And before we start public comment, we have with us the Public Information Manager for the Treasure Coast for the Mordino Group, the Corradino Group, which is going to talk to us about the Ocean Avenue Bridge project, which starts later in April. We also have with us the project administrator, and we also have the project engineer from the company who's doing the work. So would you like to come up and give us a little bit of idea of what's going on and
Yeah,
when's going?
Hi, Meredith Cruz. I am with the Corradino Group. I'm a consultant to the Department of Transportation. Thank you for allowing us to speak very briefly tonight just about our project. We are starting on April 24th. That's a Monday. And Jason Trujillo with RS&H, who's overseeing the project, is going to speak a little more about it. But we were also looking to hold an open house in your commission chambers. We're looking right now at Tuesday, April 18th, if that's suitable for everyone. We can hold them from 4 to 6, 5 to 7, whatever's more convenient for you. They had the design open house here, so we were hoping to do the same.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Just wanted to give you a slight update on
Could you state your name for us?
My name is Jason Trujillo. I'm with RS&H. I'll be the senior project engineer for the bridge coating project. This is the first time that Ocean Avenue Bridge, Basco Bridge, will be recoded. So it's going through a complete removal of the existing coating, reapplication of coating, and we'll be doing stucco repairs and paints. as coordinated with DOT. As of right now, the project is set to go live. First contract day is the 24th of this month. The contractor has 154 days to complete the work. The work is primarily restricted to night work, which is the first point that DOT would like to approach the town about, is allowing the contractor to do daytime closures. And we will be holding a formal cost savings initiative with DOT to discuss any time savings and financial savings that may be realized by relaxing of that requirement. We feel that by doing so, we can compress the schedule to allow the contractor to finish earlier during daytime hours, because at night we have the introduction of high humidity, moisture, dew point levels, and that would extend the contract unnecessarily due to weather, inclement weather. So we think that we could do a benefit to the town by allowing the daytime closures, allowing one single lane closure on the bridge, and allowing the contractor to compress that schedule to a much more manageable and be out of here prior to fall.
Well, how much do you think that is? 50%, 30%?
He's thinking that he could get out of here within 90 days. He does not want to commit and cut his nose off in spite of his face at that point. He wants to commit to 120. 120 still gets us into very early August. So it's much nicer if he is not impacted due to the weather. The weather really will play the significant role here at night, because he will potentially get a 30% increase in his contract time.
And what
No, we-
time? Sorry.
Sorry, are we looking for the hours of operation he's going to be working?
We're assessing right now the peak values of traffic on the bridge to see which are the best time constraints. As of right now, it allows nighttime closure from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. And on the bridge during the day, it only allows short duration closures to drop off materials or something of the sort.
Well, I have another question I have is, at the night closures, what kind of noise are you making? Because, I mean, you have residents that are really close to that bridge.
And that's a very big second concern with the condominiums so close by. They are.
I'm talking about the other side,
Which,
the east side.
with all the noise.
Yeah,
We're hoping that the sound doesn't propagate. There's a bigger concern of reflection through the channel than there really is propagation down the roadway. The condo association is going to be a big, and we've already been in preliminary talks along with Jamie and Hal. We've also been in preliminary talks already with Boynton Beach, and they've actually recommended to defer to you, since you would probably gain the biggest benefit from this MOT modification to the contract.
Can you
funds.
define time? You keep on mentioning peak time. Like during the day, what time period would you look at possible closures?
That is currently being analyzed right now, given the traffic volumes during that time. So we're going to account for the off-peak times right now being, your seasonal peaks are in the wintertime, correct? So the summertime is going to be your seasonal off-peaks. We're currently doing an analysis on that. We hope to have that answer before the end of the week. But typical closures would be something like 9 to 3, 9 to 4 is a typical.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my name is Ganji.
Come on up.
The current plan is indicating 9 to 5, and from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. However, since the contractor requested, as Jason indicated, they want to short from 154 days to 120 days. And therefore, the time we're just, as Jason says, we're reviewing it to keep it as a current plan restriction, or maybe change a little bit. But as far as the night goes, he's requesting from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. Daytime will be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So we're going to bring this up to the town, and if, you know, and this
Well,
is.
I got
this
a
is-
couple more questions for you. Could you come up to the microphone? Because the audience has to hear you too. All right, so we're talking about painting and fixing of the bridge. Is that what we're talking about? So you're talking about sandblasting?
Exactly.
So sandblasting we're not going to be doing at night, right?
Well, according to the current.
No,
plan-
we're not going to want sandblasting, and I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, it was.
Because the thing is, you got to remember that the sandblasting is going to go, like you said, that noise is going to go
A lot of noise.
all the way down the
Exactly.
water on one side and all the way down the water on the other side.
Exactly. And that's the whole reason. we try to accommodate the contractor's request and give him 120 days in lieu of 154 days. And so he can have most of the work daytime according to approved plan, which has gone through the town, both town, Boynton Beach and Ocean Ridge. They are allowed to close and shut down the whole bridge 10 nights, 10 nights, to paint those nodes. Now, per contractor's request, he's asking about, he may be able to go ahead and we can tie him down to 6 nights. So this is where we are at this time, and we just wanted to get your approval also in order for us to go ahead and revise this MOT plan.
When you do this, do you do all the sandblasting, complete it, then do the painting?
Well, that would be up to the contractors, you know,
Okay.
No, they're gonna do it,
method of
they'll have to do it
work.
in sections, and they have to also, they got cracks on the stucco, and you're gonna have to chip those out, and you're gonna have to do a lot of repair on the stucco on the
That
outside of
would
that
be,
bridge.
No.
he's a schedule.
Due to the high salinity in the area, the plans require the contractor to prime 8 hours after beginning the media blasting. So, there's a couple things that I want to mention. There are times that it will be inevitable that we have to do a full detour as approved per the current plan to paint the tips and the heel. So the bridge does have to go up, detours have to go in, and that has to occur at night. Those are the only times. The contractor has committed to a 40% reduction in the allowable time. The contract currently allows him 10 days to do that. He says he can get it done in 6 or better. So unfortunately, there will be some inconvenience and there will be some nighttime noise, but it'll be restricted just to the tips.
Yeah, but painting noise and sandblasting noise are night and day.
Two different things.
No pun intended.
Completely two different sets of noise.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the plans currently allow for that, and unless we're open to the idea of allowing detours during the day, I don't necessarily.
What about the weekends?
Yeah, we can.
He's indicated he's gonna work in Sunday through Friday.
I think he's referring to the full detours during the weekend.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday, you're doing detours during Saturday and Sunday as well?
They're allowed to work at Pursuit Saturday.
7 days a week?
So they'll work 7 days?
These folks are from the west coast of Florida. To
Mhm.
them, every day spent not working is a day lost
They wanna
in
work 6 days.
expenses. So they come in, they want to
They have
work
a
7
hidden
days if
contract.
possible.
6 days.
Now they're,
Hang on. Are they working 7 days or 6 days?
They have indicated they wanna work 6 days a week. They're allowed to work 7 days a week,
But they're
but
only gonna
they
work
have
6.
said they wanna work 6 days a week.
they are Orthodox Greek, so they are practicing their religion on the 7th day. But it's not unheard of for them to do the 7th day. And they have indicated they want to work 6. They reserve the right, they said, to work the 7th should they need to.
All right, so to sum up, our request is no sandblasting at night. I think that we wouldn't mind the lane closures during the day if it speeds the work up. And the less inconvenience for the residents, the better.
I guess the only thing would be define night.
Yeah,
Like, 'cause right now it's 7 PM, right?
to 6 a.m.
Right. So when do you want to say, at what hour do you have to stop sandblasting?
Well, before night. I mean, night is, I would
10
say
o'clock.
night, 6 o'clock.
Oh,
Do you have any concern with the restaurants in the area, the Two George and such, being a concern?
The Banamo Two Joe's too loud on Sundays as it is for a lot of people down on that
They
side.
have a
of the
band
bridge.
named Sandblaster.
No, we're concerned with everything east.
Right.
They,
Uh,
they can,
We're gonna have some problems with, like, the weekend traffic coming over that bridge. I mean, that's not us leaving. But, and then what about holidays? You've got a couple of holidays during that.
We observe holidays, the contractors observes holidays. They're
So
typically-
July 4th, Memorial Day, and,
per spec, they're not allowed to work. I mean, unless they request.
okay.
Those particular holidays are usually not granted just because of the sheer nature and the beach destination for those particular holidays.
Or we can request what you have said about the sandblast at night. So maybe we can, work with them on that and see how that works.
Okay.
Like I said, when's the CSI being scheduled right now?
That's when we start to,
Jamie, you have this, you have all what we're talking about here down so we can. you
Yeah,
guys
I'm
can work-
meeting with them next week as
yeah,
well
he's
to
been involved in the
fine
whole thing,
tune.
very gracious. I really appreciate for all the cooperation.
We're
I'm
also-
trying to make that meeting, I'm trying to make
And as far as the definition of the word night, your night goes to 6 AM, so obviously, at some point, the sandblasting would stop.
This is by all means something that's open
Yeah.
for your input. So if Jamie can come to the CSI with those restrictions, then, you know, we can incorporate that as need be. At this point, the contractor really wants to work days, so he's almost willing to concede anything. So he'll be happy to do anything that omits night work.
Okay.
I've been in conversation, Mayor, with the city of Boynton Beach, and they concur with what we're talking about shifting to a daytime schedule and least amount of impact, especially at nighttime or high peak traffic hours.
The thing is, it has to be done.
It has to be done.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Any other questions for the gentleman? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate all the information.
All right, now moving on to public comment. Anybody wishes to speak at public comment?
Terry Brown, Harbor Drive South. I just wanted to make a couple of comments, but mainly to congratulate the two winners of the election, and Don is still awake. So he's enthusiastic about the work, and it seems like the commission will be reasonable in most of its deliberations. One of the things I wanted to bring up was something that I brought up before, and I know that's sort of a drag to have the same thing brought up all the time, but there needs to be some review of this short-term rental situation. It's sort of getting out of hand. First of all, are the people registered to rent at all? And if they are registered to rent, they need to get a notice saying that it's limited to over 30 days. We have a bunch of people renting on these Airbnb and HomeAway, and it's going to get worse. So I don't know what, and Jamie mentioned to me at a brief conversation that we had that there's some legislation coming through to try to restrict local municipalities on what rule they can impose on rentals. But there's also a sunset provision. If the rule is in place, it's grandfathered in.
If you had something on your books before June 2011, that sticks. Anything after that, they're trying to completely preempt.
So you can't rush and stick an ordinance in place. So,
You know, it might be worth Jamie's time. I think it's Miami/South Dade. That area is going through the exact same thing you're talking about, and they were trying to implement and battle Airbnb, and they were having meetings about it to come up with a policy.
Yeah.
We might be able just to get their policy and see if it works for us.
but
Well,
the
we
issue
have
is
a- we
that
have a policy already.
yeah.
But ours needs a little more teeth to it, that's the problem.
Yeah,
That's
but
right.
Airbnb was fighting the policy. You know?
What's that?
Airbnb was fighting the legality of what they put in place in Miami.
Yeah, it's a big company, and they got a lot of lawyers. But the problem is that sometimes the town doesn't even know these rentals are occurring. So I think there ought to be a system, either, I don't want to suggest more work for the clerk's office, but there ought to be a way where those notices can go out if a neighbor complains that there's cars coming and going every few days or every couple of weeks. Because you do have that code in place that was passed in 2005 that says it must exceed 30 days. I mean, Ocean Ridge is becoming a cash cow. I mean, that's a good thing for the business people and the people buying homes for that purpose, but it's not good for the permanent residents, I don't think. And I think there's a lot of other people that agree. The only other thing I wanted to comment on is I looked at the report that the police chief issued, and it was wonderful, a lot of data. The old report used to show some narrative. You know, that situation occurred on a certain block in a neighborhood, and so the residents got an idea of what was going on around them. Did I miss that?
The monthly report is in the same fashion that it has been since we started with this computer system. The town newsletter is where I put in significant events or events of concern that will give you specific areas, not a specific address.
Yeah.
To give the residents the idea of something happening in their specific area.
Yeah, I guess maybe I missed that, but when I read through it, I couldn't really figure out where a lot of these things were occurring based on all of your graphs and,
This
yeah.
This monthly report is a computer-generated monthly report. If you look in the newsletter, the first section of the police departments will have the information you're asking.
Yeah, so you're talking about the newsletter that people sign up for to get an e-blast?
Right.
Okay. So
Or you can
people
pick it
need-
up here in Town Hall.
Yeah, people need to know that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fornazzaro from 7 Inland K Drive, and I was advised to come here and bring this to your attention by Jamie Titcomb. He had advised me to bring the situation, which I don't know if it has a resolution, but a couple of weeks ago, this is in regard to the demolition at number 6 Inlet K Drive and some of the problems that it caused. Number 5, Joey called me a couple of weeks ago and asked me if I had any damage from the vertical ball drop that they were demolishing the concrete slabs and what have you. And I said, well, no, I don't know yet, but I've certainly been hearing it because the whole house has been shaking. And he said, me too, and I have damage, what have you. Anyway, make a long story short, he said he called the company, and the woman at the company said that she didn't know that they were using a lead ball drop, and they weren't supposed to on that job. So in the meantime, I went along with Joey, and I just kept quiet about it and just waited to see and kept looking around for cracks in any of my walls and what have you, and looking outside, and I had some. And then a couple of weeks ago, I had a knock at the door, and a gentleman, I shouldn't say that, a man was there and asked for Joey, and I said, no, this is not Joey. He lives 2 doors down. He said, well, Nancy? And I said, well, yeah, that's my wife. And he says, well, this has got to do with next door. And I said, well, okay, come on in. I thought, this is a nice gesture to come and discuss it and have a resolution. Okay, fine. So I invited him into my house, asked him to sit down, and if he wanted something to drink, what have you. And he started, well, what's the problem? And I says, well, we were sitting here, and we felt the shock waves of the ball drop, felt that the whole house was shaking, and we have 5 identifiable cracks in our concrete. And they weren't there last week because we're out there all the time. And it said, well, that can't be, we do this. We've done 100 demolitions in the town of Ocean Ridge, and we're a renowned company, and we do things right and what have you. Well, that may be true, but they weren't there last week, and they're there this week, so. And he said, well, you should get yourself an engineer. I said, well, I am an engineer. And he basically turned quite nasty in a hurry and said, well, then go get yourself a lawyer, and started to walk out, refused to identify himself, and would not give me a card. So there's something wrong with the process of permitting somebody who can come on premises and cause damage, and I've had damage, don't get me wrong, I've had damage before from people that have worked in the area, even the town, some of the work that they've done. I kept my mouth shut, I went and got it fixed and what have you. But this one just went too far, and the vertical ball drop, you must know what it is. It's a huge lead ball where they just raise it up by cable and just let it drop to smash concrete about 5 or 6 inches, reinforced concrete. And that's what they do, and that was witnessed by Joey at number 5 and by my wife, who actually saw the ball drop lifts. And I don't know what the answer is, but something's not right, and I just felt, upon the recommendation of Jamie, that I come here and bring it to your attention, because we shouldn't have to be going around having these kind of problems and fixing up somebody else's mess and then have people just walk out and say, the hell with you. And basically that's what it was. In addition, just to make a note, I've requested of Mr. Titcomb that I would like to know if there are any waivers of any codes on the plans that are approved for the house next door. And that's not to be confrontational with the people. I want to welcome them, and we've had conversation with, my wife has had conversation with them, and we want to be as friendly as we can. So this has got more to do with technical matters than it does with personalities of people. And I'm asking that because I have had damage to my property for what engineers have called violations of code on adjoining property. So I was just asking for him to find that out for me. And other than that, I don't know what the answer is, but I felt I had to bring it to your attention. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fornatore. Jamie, who was the contractor on that job? Federico?
Federico, yeah. They're the demolition company. They do a lot in town. They did one on South Harbor just like a week or two ago.
All right, could
They
you,
have done a lot.
would you please call them and look into this and
Yes.
see what's going on? Because I believe that I don't think it's in our code, but a building official has informed them, as well as the piling people, not to pound things in the ground because that area is like jello.
It's like
In the
muck
north
over there.
end.
Yeah.
So,
They use the
Chief?
live all over Harbor Drive South, too.
you
Use
need
it
to look
all
into
there.
that to kind of, can we change that in the code?
Harbor
Brian?
Drive South, they were using.
No, we can. Hey, Terry, guys, excuse me.
No, I mean, there are certain code provisions that I put in other codes that talk about vibratory compaction and other things of that nature that impact adjacent properties. You know, I guess the other side of that is that you hear from either the contractors or developers or whatever that say, well, if we can't use this process, it's going to increase the time or increase the cost. So then you need to balance, you know, what you want to have in a code as far as regulating certain types of construction that,
Well,
you know.
the thing is, I want to regulate the construction at it, how it affects the neighbors. The construction of a house shouldn't affect the neighbors adversely. So if we can look into that.
Okay.
And Terry, Jamie,
I'll
if you could
contact them and-
contact Federico and address Mr. Fornatore's concerns. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, Stella Kolb. I also would like to congratulate the commissioners, but picking up on this gentleman's problem made me think of a problem that I think we're going to have. Osprey Drive is a very small street, very small. A house has been approved to be built there. I know the four neighbors around us. I have no idea what the code says as far as them parking, all the vehicles. I mean, I think maybe we do have a lot of small streets in this town.
That's in tonight's meeting, as a matter of
Oh, I
fact.
didn't read it. I apologize.
That's okay. Yes, sir.
Ed Brooks, 15 East Ocean Avenue. People with a bridge are lucky. A lot of people in this town with the bridge is shut. That's a different story. I'm here to support Terry. I didn't realize he was going to speak about that, but I live on a street with only about 11 homes, and two of the homes on my street are advertised. One has a minimum of a week stay, and it has a price per night, and another one has a minimum of a 3-night stay. Now, I know it's kind of on the homeowner, which, I'll be honest, I'm very uncomfortable coming in and saying, well, John Smith is doing this, this, and this. But it's public knowledge, and, you know, we say we don't want commercial businesses in town. You got a lot of them. And I think the town's got to get ahead of this a little bit and be a little more proactive. I mean, we get angina worrying about cameras or who's on our beaches, but we don't seem to care who's living next door. We did have a system that I don't think you have in place anymore, where you had to register who was actually renting your home.
We did, remember, then we had another meeting, it was voted out.
I know. And
Taken
I think
out.
that was the wrong thing to do, because I know when the boroughs had the problem on Old Ocean, it was a serious
I think
issue.
there was some legal issues with it, and privacy.
But
We could-
I think
that's something we should bring up.
I really just asked to get ahead of this, and it costs a little bit of money, not that much, but I would send out a letter to everybody in town reminding them what the ordinances are, so nobody can claim they didn't know. I mean, I'm not going to go to Jamie and say, well, Joe Smith is doing this, even though I know Joe Smith is doing this. It puts your townspeople in a really uncomfortable position. But you know what's happening. It's easy to find out. People are breaking the law, and I think we need to do something about it at this point, so.
Just
Thank you, Ed.
one small point, Jeff. Jamie, isn't the app that's going online, a citizen can report whatever they want, and it's
Yes.
anonymous?
Yes, that is possible. That'll be up and running very shortly. That would allow people to report the incidents, and we could chase them down that way. But there are a number of other issues involved, policing issues, privacy issues. In my report, there's some legislative issues there, as we mentioned. It's a complex issue that the legislature and others are trying to preempt from local authorities right now. The chief could probably address some of the problems they've had in the past.
No, I
trying
just
to
want to make sure that Ed knew there's an app coming on the site so that you can painlessly report this.
I've got a question for the town attorney. If the legislature preempts the statutes, the local statutes that are in effect or regulations as of 2011, would that restore the regulations that we had, that any post-2011 ordinance superseded? Or and then what did we have in effect before 2011?
Well, I'm not aware of us adopting anything after 2011. I think most of the work that was done on this is around 2005 or 6, something like that.
I thought we had something after 2011.
Last 2
I
years.
believe
Yeah.
that the rental registration ordinance, not the change of vacation rental or timeframes, came later. And because we had the ordinance, it was not a change in the.
Okay, it didn't impact that, which I would assume that the legislation would not impact that as well, but it depends on what the state says, so we
I
would
thought
have
there
to
was
see
a
what's adopted.
markup of the bill in one of the committees today, too. I haven't checked to see what happened, but I thought that vacation bill was either marked up or voted out of committee today, one of the committees.
I can take a look
at that?
and see. Yes.
Jamie, also, next meeting, just bring, let's bring that rental registration as an agenda item, so we can have a discussion about that.
There should be some late-breaking news related to that coming out of the legislature as well. Just one other note that might be helpful, and that is that anybody that is renting legally or otherwise is obligated to pay bed and tourist tax to the county. Otherwise, they're in violation of the law in that context as well. So if you're trying to chase that down, you could check that out with the county and find out if they're legal rentals or not. Ours require a minimum of 30 days plus, and these Airbnb type things are violating that. But
All right,
the
thank you.
legislature's in it.
Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, let's moving on. Announcements and proclamations. The town will be providing free shredding services to residents Saturday, April 22nd, 2017, from 9 a.m. until noon at Town Hall. The Planning and Zoning Commission will meet on Monday, April 17th at 8:30 a.m. at Town Hall to discuss ordinance amendments. Proclamation, we're declaring a week of April 9th through 15th National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. That's a big one. I also like to announce that the Garden Club had their 50-year anniversary party here, and it was quite the gala. And I'm glad everybody attended. I mean, the Garden Club has been a fixture in this town for quite a long time and has done very well for the town. I also like to say that the town itself was exceedingly democratic, because I think we were the top in Palm Beach County in actually people showing up to vote, which I think that really makes us one heck of a community, to be able to come in, everybody comes up and actually votes and is involved. So thank you, everyone. All right, moving on, that's to reports. Jamie.
Thank you, Mayor. My report's in your backup, so I will try to keep it as short as possible. There is a number of issues were discussed this evening about that are also parallel tracking through the state legislature. And there are issues that everybody should be concerned about and following. I included a list of Florida League of Cities provided priorities and positions, both opposing and supportive of various bills that affect us. On that is a number of bills that are local regulation preemptive to municipalities. The cities are fighting these very earnestly. Vacation rental was one of the ones on there. Preemption for wireless communication infrastructure is on there. Local business tax preemption is on there. Firefighter disabilities, vacation rentals I mentioned. There's a local government fiscal responsibility bill that purports to make you spend down your reserves and any other assets you have before you can raise millage and/or bond anything out. That's very troublesome to operational aspects. There are some good ones on there. Septic tank mandatory reporting for real estate transactions that would help the town understand if there was going to be problems with septic systems when real estate, when the transaction takes place. That's been watered down already, but it still would provide towns with a notification factor. And there's a couple others on there. You can read those. I'll be happy to answer questions on those at any time. I listen to the state legislative update every Monday morning that gives you the status of all these bills and where they are and where they're in committee. And you probably have gotten a few emails from me urging you to contact your legislators at certain points in time. And that's usually connected with committee meetings or another critical calendar time when one of these is coming up and needs some local input from officials. So just stay tuned to that. It is time again, being 2017, in the way we have it set up for the town to do the state and county ethics requirements. So if it's the desire of the commission, we can set that up and do a presentation here for all of you in the near future so that you meet those requirements. If you don't want to do it as a group here and bring other local communities in to hear the same presentation, we can also reserve you a slot in front of other organizations that will be presenting this in the next few months. So I just need some feedback as if you have any preference.
Is this in addition to the online?
The county one can be done online, the county ordinance piece. The state one, I think, has to be a live presentation. Do you know for sure, Brian, if?
I'm not so sure if it has to be a live presentation. We can confirm that, but I mean, it's 4 hours, so it's more than, I think you only get an hour and a half for the county commission, for the county one. So you would need to get the other hours, which I think if you have one for the county, if they come and make a presentation, that can count for the state as well.
So probably the most efficient way would be to do it here and even offer, say, Manalapan, Gulfstream, to join us to if you want to. If you just want to do it for you, we'll set it up for that. But it would likely be somebody from the Commission on Ethics office, as well as one of the local attorneys, maybe even our own, and possibly somebody from a league or other organization that would provide the components of it for you.
Well, I believe that's the way we've done it in the past.
Okay, so you're comfortable with that model?
Sure, let's get it over with.
Yeah.
I took it a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't that painful.
I mean, continuing education?
Yes.
Okay.
Also in the package is a note about street sign upgrades. We are still talking to vendors, but I put behind my narrative some pictures of the current sign stock in town and the inventory of the kinds of signs that we order, and then some examples of the different types that are highly decorative, and then some vendors that also produce alternative product signs that resemble the same type of thing. We're getting prices. We're parsing this out to see how many of these we could do. I didn't have it for tonight, but I've got huge rolls that Lisa's Ingenuity firm produced for us. This is GIS mapped all the signs in the town. We've got them entirely mapped out from one end to the other. So we'll be doing our inventory, pricing these out. The problem with the current signs are twofold. One, over time, they're now 10, 12, 15 years old. I'm not sure the exact time span on them. They're deteriorating beyond the ability to repaint them and just replant them. They're being weed-eated, weed-eated, and dry rot is setting in. So the maintenance on them is getting more and more difficult to make them look as good as they should. The other problem is when they get mowed down or something happens to them, you might notice that a lot of our sign stock is at different heights, and DOT doesn't like that, so we want to get ultimately all our stop signs and directional signs at the same standard heights that they ought to be. So I'll be bringing you back some specific proposals. Just wanted you to see the visual examples. There are things, I talked to Jeff Industries the other day, they're the ones that do the sandblasted signs for us today, and they've suggested some things that they could do to us that would more mass produce these and still retain the look and feel. The current problem is these are $600 or $700 a pop if we have to just go in and put one unit in, because they're so hand intensive in the production. So we're trying to find a way to inventory and replace and standardize the signs of the town, at the same time keep the unique look and feel that they have.
Is Jeff Industries sophisticated enough to come up with a composite material that looks identical to the wood? Because we're not interested in rebranding the town with all these other looks. But if there was a material that looked like the current signs we have, which are our town branding,
It
but
would
made
be,
out of-
I'm sorry, it would be our intent to use the material shown from the other companies, but in the aesthetic configuration that we're currently using. So if you like white posts and the coloration of the signs the way they go today, that's the way we would spec them out with these other companies that do recycled plastics and composite materials. And I've also spoken to Jeff Industries about possibly trying to find the same kind of materials and do that. I'm not sure if they have the sophistication to do it yet. We're in conversation with them.
So when do you think you'll have all this
I'll
compiled?
have hopefully a proposal for you to enact on next month.
Okay.
I just wanted to give this out to you so you could give me feedback if you have strong ideas one way or the other, and any observational stuff you see in the town.
What we had done before, when we first put these signs up, is we put like aluminum sleeves around the bottom of the post to keep the weed eaters from eating the post. I've noticed over time that those sleeves have either come off or the post has been replaced and not the sleeve put back on. So I think that's something that, no matter what the material was, would probably be beneficial going forward with the new ones.
I agree, and we've discussed that with them. We think that's a good idea too, so we have less problems. Another subtle thing is every sign today is notched, so every pole is custom made for every installation. And if you look at some of the other examples, there may be a way to get the same look and yet bolt the directional signs to the outside of the post and have a stock post design. So we're looking at cost-saving ideas that do not reduce the aesthetic of the sign stock.
Okay.
A couple more quick things. I put some notes in here too. We're exploring issues involved in bringing more building department functionality in-house. I've spoken to a lot of you individually about this. Just wanted to let you know, over the last 4 years, our number of permits and our revenues from permits have been exponentially higher than budgeted. In 13-14, we did 707 issued permits. In 14-15, we did 708 issued permits. In 15-16, we did 878 issued permits. These are all permit categories: new homes, additions, remodeling, and all the related disciplines. Year to date, we're upwards of almost 300 permits, and they're still coming in strong. We have piles of them arriving daily. So the idea behind this is looking at how we can increase the time on task that we have. We currently contract that out of house. And in order to do that, we would look at reclassifying some internal positions, a building clerk role and an administrative assistant role, and see if we could increase our building official and zoning official time from the current 3 days a week to a 5-day a week model, and do it all within the budgeted pass-through items that fall under the whole building department activity, which we think we can do. I just want to put it out there for your thought process and for your feedback over the next few weeks, and we will bring some specific numbers and how we would accomplish that budgetarily and where we think those efficiencies would come. So you have some narrative on that, and if you want the statistics on all the permits, I'll provide those to you for all the exact numbers. Any comment on that before I move forward?
Yeah, we want to, let's explain the reasoning. What we're even discussing this because the building official now is here how many days a week?
It was 2 days a week. We've upped that to 3 days a week. We pay for a third-party contractor. Now, we haven't identified in the potential new model whether that would be a contract employee or a full-blown in-house employee, but the idea is, a lot of the feedback that we get is when problems occur, a lot of the times it's because we're not on site and on task a lot. In fact, you're doing an ordinance first reading later on this agenda that has to do with construction site management and various issues that come up. We've started to parse out some of that information to the Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as an ARC and troubleshooting some of this stuff. So our goal would be to provide concierge service 5 days a week, to have quick turnaround, to have troubleshooting on a daily basis, and to take more plans review and more detail work in-house so that it can be processed here, turned around quickly, and put back out on the street to keep things moving. We believe we can get there, as I mentioned, within the constraints of what we currently raise and pass through. For example, the town engineers have a large chunk of their budget that is pass-through expense for drainage and review on plans and permits. When those numbers go up, it looks like their budget goes over, but it's actually pass-through expense that ought to be under a building fund budget, and that would be isolated out, as well as other functions, so that you'd actually see the revenues and the expenses to run the building department. Again, whether that's all in-house employees or a combination of in-house employees and contract employees remains to be seen as we crunch the numbers. But we think it's about getting more bang for the buck and getting more timely turnaround on services. We already have a great reputation, believe it or not, for turning stuff around very quickly and efficiently compared to other communities around us, but we think we can increase that.
Yeah, we're also looking, though, that one of the main reasons we're doing this is because the building official was only here twice a week. So only twice a week, we'd come up with problems, somebody would ask for a permit, and he would do it on the phone, and he has no idea what happens, he's not here. So you need to go to the job, look at what's going on to make a decision. You can't do it by phone. So now we're in 3 days a week, right?
It's been
And
like half days, but yeah.
we're just seeing what the cost is in relation to how much it would cost to bring this stuff in-house. So that's the bottom line, right? All right, so when are you going to come back?
And we're using the guide of the revenues and expenses we currently generate under those pass-through expenses as our model for the budget, so that we're not costing the town more money, we're just getting more return on our investment.
Correct. So when will you have some of these numbers to us?
I will have, presuming everything goes smoothly with identifying how we're going to do this, I can bring this to you as soon as next month to vet through the actual proposals of doing that, in terms of how we think that'll impact cost-wise.
Okay, great.
But it factors into the budgeting workshops, it factors into how we're looking at the budget structure and a number of other issues. So I need to know that there's at least consensus to look at it and possibly move in that direction. Unless you're completely fine with the model we use today, and that's fine too. Just wanted to get some feedback from you.
I'd like them to look at this like in a 3 to 5 year, more than just what's going to happen next year, but I'd like to look at it, 2 or 3 years out to see if this trend would continue as best we can, so that we can kind of take a look at, if we bring these people on board, how long will we be able to keep them on board before we're going to have to turn over or whatnot. So.
Well, but it should be pretty close, to revenue neutral, because, we're already paying X amount of dollars contract-wise for the,
Hybrid.
yeah, for hybrid to come in and do our work. And we'll get, I think, more bang for our buck by having him working full-time, because he can also go on site, examine, relieve some of the police officers of compliance issues. He can do some of the compliance stuff. I don't think it's going to cost us that much capital-wise, for example, to get another automobile. He can use probably one of the, just put a magnetic strip on the side of a police car and just say building official on it, and it's not going to cost us a whole lot of capital expense. We've got the office back here that the in-house attorney used to use, so it's just going to be a matter of is the yearly expenditure for an in-house building official going to be close to the same as what we're contracting now.
And benefits as well.
And plus, we're gonna get all the benefit of somebody who's gonna be,
No, benefits we
benefits
pay.
costs.
oh,
Yeah.
but the.
Which is
the-
usually 29%.
Yeah, it's gonna be about I don't know,
Well,
70 to 90.
either way,
Either way.
this is everything you're going to bring to us.
Yeah, we will map
So
this
it'd be
out
what
if
the
the
total
interest
cost
is there.
is.
I think Don raised, one of the most pertinent questions is the long-term. We see no slowdown in building activities now, but a couple years out, will that be the case?
I mean, the only slowdown is gonna be a recession. We can't, gonna predict a recession. I don't know how we can plan for, well, we expect the country to go into recession in 2020, so.
But since we budget year to year,
Yeah.
if that starts being the trajectory of the building industry, we can adjust for that down the road, if we go that way, so. I will bring you back some
I mean,
specifics.
my
at
guess
the-
is right now, we're, getting a lot of bottled up stuff that didn't take place when there wasn't any money available for people to do building, but, I don't think that's gonna be a significant downtrend in the future.
Well, it has to do with how much property we have left that can be torn down and rebuilt.
Well, but
Almost every
It's-
property. Quite a bit.
yeah, it's gonna be a lot.
So, all right, so go ahead, you're gonna bring that back next
Bring that
month.
back to you.
And give us some numbers, please.
Will do. And finally, or almost finally, two things we need to check with you, trying to plan ahead. 2 regular town commission meetings fall on traditional heavy holiday weekends. One is July 3rd, Monday, July 3rd, which is the day before July 4th. And the other one is September 4th, which is a regular town commission meeting slot, which is Labor Day weekend. So we have July 4th and Labor Day weekends, and I wanted to check with you as a commission whether you want to move those 2 months to the following Monday, which would be July 10th and September 11th, to not interfere with your holiday travel plans and your, so we can properly advertise them and notify everybody if you're interested and willing, or if you want to keep them on those dates, let us know that too, but it's, I'm sure, problematic for some.
Any problem?
I think we need to change them.
Yeah.
I won't be here in that particular week in September, but
Which
The
we,
11th.
push it back 2 weeks, it's too far.
It's too far.
yeah, plus we have budget issues to
Yeah.
deal with, and that kind of planning.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I move that we change the July 3 meeting, regular meeting, town commission meeting to July 10, and we move the September 4 regular town commission meeting to the following Monday, September 11th.
Second.
Motion and second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. What else, Jamie?
Quick thing, at your request, you've all just been issued new official town emails, and I think the chief gave you connection information on that. We're going to give you a couple of weeks on that to get used to using an oceanridgeflorida.com email address, and then we will, when you give us the green light that you know how that works and everything works great, we'll link you up on the website so that people can email you directly through that. It'll help with public records, it'll help you with keeping all your city stuff in one place. And if you have any questions or need tech support, see the chief. Or see me.
Also helps with the public records.
And then I have a note here, Mr. Kaz wanted to make a few comments on some
Yeah.
pictures you brought.
Yeah, I've been
So-
working with Jamie and the police chief on beach issues and with the other commissioners when we're here. And there was a rather shocking incident that occurred this past end of February, February 25th and 26th, which is a commercial enterprise is now using the beaches along Old Ocean to not only deliver his customers, but to deliver his equipment. So in my particular case, when I was approached by a resident, I talked to the chief, and he was pretty swift in action, attempting to identify and alert this gentleman, which unfortunately we could not identify him. But as these reports come in, we've sort of hit a wall now, if you look at what's going on in Boynton. And I know we've discussed this for 2 years. Actually, we've been discussing since 2006. But we're now up at the population pressure point where it's going to burst into Ocean Ridge. So if any citizens have any great suggestions, I know all the commissioners have been working with Jamie and the police chief trying to come up with solutions. And it's a very difficult situation. So if people have solutions, I'd love to hear them. This isn't meant to get into a big discussion. It's more of a statement that these things are now occurring, and if you do see them, please call the town manager or call the chief as soon as possible. What we found down at the south end of town is once a few of these people come, the word spreads like wildfire, and we've actually watched it grow from 3 to 10 to 20 drop-offs, not all commercials, in the course of 5 weeks, I think it is. So the sooner you can alert the police force that we have a problem here, the quicker we can address it and hopefully come up with a solution.
Brian, would the use of our public access by a commercial enterprise be a violation of our anti-commercial enterprise in the town? I mean, can they make money by using our facilities, which is what they're doing? Would that not violate our prohibition on commercial use of in the town?
Well, I mean, I would first say, let me look at that. However, it appears that, I guess what I'm kind of hearing is most of the use is occurring actually on the ocean. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, just going by what the pictures look here, it's not like they're actually setting up a hut or a shed or something like that.
No, they're driving kayaks over in a commercial,
No,
setting.
I hear
And then
you.
stopping there and unloading and unloading. That's part of their business model.
And that, I think, would need to discuss that with the chief as far as like stopping on public right-of-way and unloading, and or how's that impacting public right-of-way? I think that's probably the way that we would have to address it versus, well, it's a commercial enterprise or not, because I don't know if they aren't, if someone stops there and it has a stand and they're taking money, on commercial right-of-way, without a doubt, that's it. But
What difference does it make if they're setting up a shop in Boynton Beach and collecting money in order to transport people over here, and then as opposed to setting up a shop right next to the public right-of-way? What's the difference?
I think one of the differences how much time they're actually spending on site in the public right-of-way. That's why I said I'd need to take a look at that and see,
It's about
because
15 minutes to 25 minutes. But one other thing to put in the equation, maybe you can do some research and get back to us, because that's a great
Okay.
point you're bringing up, Jim.
right.
It is a public access involved as well, which has to swirl into the discussion.
Okay.
Well, the guy's blowing every ordinance and town code we have, right,
And he
in
doesn't
these
care.
pictures. So, yeah, I mean, everything about this thing is illegal. But anyway, if you want to do some
Well, my
kind of...
point is that, we may be able to bring some sort of action against the business owner for temporary and permanent injunctive relief to prevent him from engaging in a commercial enterprise in the town of Ocean Ridge.
But you got to catch them first. There's no picture of the license plate here in the
No.
pictures.
Well,
The guy was very aggressive.
All right.
let's get our license plate recognition cameras
I
out.
would ask that if anyone sees this happening, that they call dispatch at 732-8331 immediately so we can get somebody down there, and then we can address that problem as it's occurring. I was made aware of this, I believe, the day after, and we did do some follow-up, we as me, to see if we couldn't find some way to identify that individual, and unfortunately, there wasn't enough information for me to do so, and then speak with the attorney about the operation of a commercial enterprise. Definitely stopping, unloading a truck in the middle of any street in that particular area is problematic and a violation of our town code, and we can address that if we get the call and we can respond immediately, we will. I just ask that you please call immediately, don't engage the person, just call us and observe. If you can get a picture of the side of the truck the next time with the business name or a license plate, it will help us immensely.
It's
Thank
not
you,
only
Chief.
going on in Ocean Ridge, but I was down at Briny Breezes over the weekend, and they were unloading kayaks, fishing kayaks, and there was 2 pickup trucks down there, and so that's where Dog Beach used to be. And you know what happened? It used to be Dog Beach until everybody,
Yeah, but that's county pocket, though.
The
yeah, I know
county-
it's county property, but I'm saying it's happening along that whole strip right now. We're seeing more of that than ever.
The county pocket has become very problematic. I drove through yesterday, And it was a free-for-all parking expedition on the vacant lot and on the county road, Briny Breezes Boulevard that goes into the county pocket. I also took it upon myself to come over here and ride around on Saturday, and the same enterprises are operating in the county parks.
In the county
In the county parks.
parks.
Specific areas of the county park, they like to use that. That's a county ordinance issue. I addressed some of that with the park ranger to try and preclude that. The only thing that I ask is that if you see it happening in Ocean Ridge, to let us know as soon as possible, and we'll address it as soon as we possibly can. That may be our best alternative right now. And if they go to the county pocket, and we can get the sheriff's office to come over, or the county park rangers to come over and address it, I work with them regularly, especially the Sheriff's Department District 6, on these issues, because we realize that the creep will happen if it's not addressed.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, is there any other information you want to go?
No, I'm good.
Well, can we go over this? The May budget workshop date, annual audit? Because we want to talk about that, the May budget workshop date?
It's, we need to find, this is for your collective calendars, we need to set a meeting date for a workshop, for a commission staff workshop for budget development. Hopefully other than the normal commission night, so I just need a date that works for all of you sometime in the month of May.
Do you guys want to do that during the day, or you want to do it during the evening? Have any preference?
Four-ish?
For the,
At 4 o'clock-ish?
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Probably towards the end of the day, give residents an opportunity to come.
If they want to, I mean, basically a workshop,
Yeah.
kind of explaining what the budget process is, what we're going to do, what, so if you could get back to the
We'll just circulate emails.
town clerk next week, and so we can get that going.
Everybody
right.
will email their availabilities to the town clerk, and we'll pick a date based on that.
Yeah, we got a new email packets here. These weren't pay envelopes, these were from the chief. They're new email addresses. All right, so so we want to get that going, though. We need to really make sure that we get that May meeting, because we really want to get the budget moving forward earlier than later this year.
You're going to set it at 4 o'clock?
Yeah, something like 4 o'clock, yeah.
Like a 4 to 6 timeline or something like that, or 4 to however.
All right, Jamie. Anything else on the street paving?
Wait a minute, where, I think we jumped ahead on the agenda, Mayor.
Yeah, that's
I'm just going over your,
He's got it as a separate item now.
I've got street paving as a separate item a little further down.
oh, yeah,
We
I see.
can-
Okay. All right, we'll wait till, go over that after. All right, so any other questions for Jamie? All right. Brian?
No, sir.
Really? After all these ordinances, nothing? No.
Well, I mean, I figured we could talk about them then, so. when
Oh,
they-
I know
when
what
they
it,
come up.
what about the request, are we going to talk about the request for a little more funds to your department because of the amount of ordinances we've been doing?
But, you know, I don't know. I imagine that would kind of come up in your budget.
Yeah, that was just informational to all of you that we are expending legal dollars at a greater rate than we're budgeted for in terms of a burn rate because of all the legal cases and ordinances and, all the stuff we're working on. That will come to you in the next couple of months as a budget amendment if we find that we need to actually adjust that budget line item and any other item that might be tracking differently than the burn rate.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Chief?
Good evening. You should have the monthly report from February in your packet. Unless you have any questions, I'll move on. I've been asked to address the issue that everybody has seen on the news about A1A and Lantana, Ocean Avenue, and the visit of some foreign dignitaries. I've met with Chief Maddox and Chief Scheller in Lantana, as well as the Sheriff's Office, and the information so far is it is not anticipated to affect us directly. I will recommend that you seek alternate route on Thursday and Friday, the 6th and 7th. There will be temporary road closures if there are dignitary movements, and there is an anticipation of some sort of pro and con events going on in that area. They can't gauge exactly how big or small they may be. At this point, the sheriff's commander has assured me that if there's anything that they expect to spill over past the inlet, he will let us know. I can just say the same thing that Chief Scheller in Lantana said. Without a doubt, traffic will be a nightmare. Please try and plan accordingly to be using Ocean Avenue or Woolbright for your travels if you need to go north. I believe the town manager of Manalapan asked that her residents use the south way into Manalapan if they live on the island, the ocean side. So that tells me that they're anticipating that that intersection will be disastrous
Well,
for
what
at least 2
exactly,
days.
how, what are they closing and how they,
The premier's staying at the O.
The information is that the Chinese delegation will be staying at the O. That hasn't come out officially. It has today. They are having meeting with the President of the United States. Where those meetings are, I don't know. They anticipate taking over a large portion of Lantana's public beach for staging of personnel. The sheriff has extended the reach out into our community as far as staging of police assets, which we've worked with them on. But as far as the public goes, we can't gauge what may or may not occur as far as protesters or proponents for or against the Chinese delegation or their meetings with Mr. Trump at this time.
okay.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Is all this activity going to impact on personnel over time for our police force? And if so, where do we apply to get reimbursed?
The answer to your first question is that remains to be seen. As of today, at 5 o'clock, the anticipation is that it should not impact our need for additional personnel. It's a fluid situation, obviously. They don't release a whole bunch of information unless you're directly involved. My experience with reimbursement is much like that of the sheriff's office if you read the paper. We will attempt, if we have to expend funds for that, to seek assistance from the federal government. It is highly unlikely that we would receive any based upon the limitation of our involvement in this issue.
Do you have a way of keeping track of any overtime or expenses that we incur that would be directly related to
We certainly do our
this
payroll.
activity?
We
Yeah.
certainly do. Our payroll system
Okay.
would indicate that someone was here for a specific purpose for overtime, much like we do during hurricanes for FEMA reimbursement. We
Okay.
keep those documents regularly.
Do you think that information would be available for the next meeting, so, we can have it in our packet, and if there's, a large amount of money that it cost us, we can try to do something to get reimbursed?
If we expend funds for security or traffic related to this event, I will certainly provide it to you in a memorandum form in my report next month. That's not a problem.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Is that it?
Exactly
Can
where
I-
are they closing?
Please show up at the shred event. It is very important. Identity theft is our #1 crime again. And if you can reduce the amount of personal identifiable information that you keep and not throw it in the trash and allow criminals to pick it out of the trash or at the landfill, it certainly helps us and it helps you. I encourage you to come. I'll be here Saturday morning to wave at people and make sure that we get it done.
On the 22nd.
On the
Don, yes.
22nd.
What, exactly where are they closing A1A off to?
Okay. The plan is to not close A1A except for movement of dignitary motorcades, which is standard, and that's undetermined at this point in time. The schedule has not been released. I will tell you that when the president is in town, Southern Boulevard, northbound on A1A, until you get to South County Road, is closed. And we've been enduring that closure for the last 5 visits, I believe. I haven't seen an impact on the town from that closure. That's probably 13 miles away. This will be about 5 miles away, so we may see some of that impact if people get frustrated with trying to get through Lantana Bridge to get to Manalapan.
If I can add one footnote of good news to all that. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, about 250,000 of our closest friends will be visiting the 55th Annual Delray Affair in Delray, too, which will affect the south end of our region on those bridges. So plan accordingly.
Stay home.
Let's shut them down.
All right. Thank you, Chief. All right, moving on to action items, hiring of police officers, Psalm and Boyle. Chief?
Before I begin, some of you have asked that in the future I provide you a little bit more information in advance. I've been characterizing my request for confirmation of hire and authorization based upon past. I will change that after this evening. In the meantime, I request your authorization to get a conditional confirmation for hire for 2 police officers. They are currently completing their backgrounds. They are far enough along that myself and the background investigator are confident that we will be able to move forward prior to the next meeting. And rather than waiting for an additional 4-week period, we would like to authorize hire if the conditions are met, which are the standard background conditions. Mr. Psalm is a 17-year veteran from an Ohio Police Department who relocated here with his wife and family. He is currently working as a public information officer and training manager for the Town of Palm Beach Police Department. He has an impeccable record so far that we can find. He is a very community-oriented police officer. His primary function in Ohio was that of a school resource officer working with children, and his experience in the Town of Palm Beach is that of personalized professional service to the community. I think he'll fit in very well. The second candidate is Ms. Deborah Boyle. She comes to us by way of the Miccosukee tribe, which is apparently way out in the Everglades, according to her. She originally from Georgia, where she did 12 years with the Dawson County Sheriff's Office and the Hill County Sheriff's Office in Georgia, to rural, fairly small areas, very highly regarded in her former job and with the Miccosukee Tribe of Indians. Her reason for coming to us is her husband is relocating and she is relocating to our area. She chose our agency based upon the makeup of the community and the ability to interact with the residents, and the style of policing that she heard we did. I would ask that you consider confirmation of her also.
I just had one question. I know I spoke to you, Chief, earlier. Do you have any clue what an average day in the life of a police officer from the Miccosukee Police Department is? I'm just curious, are they doing casino work? Are they out with the citizens, or?
My understanding is, much like the Seminole Tribe, they do both casino work, they do tribal lands patrol, so they do regular patrol, they do the casino, hotel, concierge service, and criminal investigations and traffic enforcement. The difference between a tribal Indian police department and a traditional Florida law enforcement agency is they have 2 sets of laws. One is the Florida law and the U.S. laws, as we would police under, and the second is tribal law. So there is I think her experience in dealing with unique situations and dealing with people is probably enhanced by the fact that she's been with the Miccosukee tribe for a year. Most folks that I know, and including one that we have hired from a former tribal agency, have that ability to deal with people, because oftentimes tribal law is like family law.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions? Want to make a motion?
I move that we conditionally hire Philip Psalm and Deborah Boyle as the new police officers for Town of Ocean Ridge, condition on their final, passing of the various exams and background checks that need to be finished before the hiring.
Second?
Motion and second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, and I will present them, if everything goes well, on the next commission.
And welcome, oh yeah, okay, we will welcome then. All right, appoint open positions to the Board of Adjustment and Planning and Zoning Commission. Tracy?
Yes, we currently have 3 regular member positions and 2 alternate member positions on both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Adjustment. All current members have indicated that they would like to continue serving, and our current alternates, David Hutchins, Susan Hurlbert, and Bob Sloat, have indicated that they would like to fill a regular member seat. We also received 2 new applications. James Lemming would like to fill a regular member seat on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and Polly Joa is interested in serving on either board. A separate motion will be necessary to appoint the group of members for each board.
All right, let's, the Planning and Zoning Commission. What's the pleasure of the commission?
Why don't we approve the slate that's there? There's no one leaving.
Is that a motion?
Yes, make a motion that that we approve the slate, the current slate on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
There's like little language in here for you to put in your motion if you want to do that.
You can't do a slate?
Yeah, you got
Well, I
to say the
didn't see
words.
that, but it doesn't matter. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second for conversation.
Okay, it's motion, second, and discussion.
You can't even follow the script.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. All right, moving on to Board of Adjustment. Thank you.
Well, we have a slot open on there.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
So,
I speak very highly of Susan Hurlbert to move up from alternate to regular member.
I see Betty shaking her head back there.
Oh, Betty.
So we got
We have discussion now?
Sure.
yeah.
I would recommend that we go with Robert Sloat. He's attended almost all of the variance board meetings as an alternate. I also think he may be the senior alternate that we have for the, not for the planning and zoning.
For the Board of Adjustment?
Board of
He is
Adjustment.
not the senior. Susan Hurlbert is the senior.
Susan
been there
Hurlbert
the
is-
longest.
Okay.
All right, so how we do is you got to make a motion, and then
Well, let's break it up for the 3 regular members. I move to appoint Betty Bingham, Bruce Gimme, and Susan Hulbert as regular members to the Board of Adjustments for a 3-year term. Let's just do that for right now.
well,
Second.
that's where there's a second.
And then we can talk about the alternate.
Right. But there's a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so motion
Okay.
carries. So Susan moves up. Now let's fill the vacancy in the alternate members.
I again have spoken to several citizens, and is a very interesting candidate who's Polly Joa. I don't know how many of you guys know her. Her husband Charlie comes to, I think, every single town meeting. She probably comes.
Yeah, he's
to-
in the back. Charlie, why don't you
Charlie
get on
here?
the planning, the
Where's
Board of
Charlie?
Adjustment?
There he is. She's been an Ocean Ridge resident longer than she'd like to admit, and she's very familiar with the growing pains that the town is facing. And I'd say she's a traditionalist, really, wouldn't you, Charlie? Yes, she is. Yeah. So I think she's great for Board of Adjustment where we would like a traditional.
Is that a motion?
It's a motion.
Sir, is it, go ahead.
I would like to question whether James Lemming would consider being on the Board of Adjustment as an alternate. I know he put in as he wanted an alternate for the P&Z board, but he's got experience with briny breezes that would be beneficial to us going forward.
You know, I don't know the gentleman that well, but I think the cutoff date was the 27th of March, because I know there was another citizen that wanted to present for a board but missed the cutoff. In other words, it's just a technicality. I don't know the answer to it.
I guess I would ask the clerk, is there a cutoff date as far as submitting applications?
Yes, we
Okay.
advertised for March 27th.
Okay.
So, but he did commit, but his application is not for the variance board?
Are you talking about James Lemmy?
Yes,
It was for the P and Z.
okay.
All right, well,
It's unfortunate.
either way, procedurally, if you want to make a motion for Polly Joe, which you have, and there's a second, and we have a vote on it. And if it fails, then you can have a motion for Mr. Lemmy. So procedurally, we're going to go ahead and do a second. We already have a motion and a second, so we can vote on Ms. Joa. So any other discussion regarding Ms. Joa on the, Mrs. Joa, sorry, Charlie, on the Board of Adjustment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
One nay. Motion carries. Charlie, tell Polly she's got to show up next time, right?
Oh, now, if I can, Mr. Mayor, maybe I missed it, but I think there's another alternate that you need to also appoint
Yes.
for the Board of Adjustments.
That's correct.
Okay.
So anyone make a motion for
It would be for Robert Slope.
Robert Slope?
Make a motion, Robert Slope becomes an alternate or continues to be an alternate on the Board of Adjustments.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Now we
Thank
get
you.
to the trim timelines.
Now where are we at here? Okay, now we set the budget workshop dates and review the trim time, the truth related to millage timeline. Jamie?
This item is informational for your studying and background purposes. This shows the process moving through trim, which is truth, in millage. It's also backed up behind that. We've got a timeline of days that we have to fall within as we move through the entire budget package. And then behind that is my memo of preparations we're doing internally with staff and some timelines that match those timelines in my memo. We already discussed the idea of setting up a May workshop, which will be timing critical to our interaction with you, so we can make sure that we observe and follow your priorities and directions. And one other note on here is that our auditors will start sometime this month. We're waiting for the start date. They will be here on site in earnest doing the FY16 full audit. We already established that you're all going to check your calendars and work through the clerk to establish the best date for the May meeting on the budget workshop. So the backup to this is all informational for your study purposes.
Okay. Is that all? Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's from the manager's report. All right, moving on then to the review proposed paving plan.
Okay, I'll be quick on this too. We talked about this last month. We have included the finalized ranking of streets as a colorful bar chart in the back of your agenda item here. After doing assessments, upgrading our grading system on the streets, and then determining how much we might be able to pave in terms of our estimated figures based on the $200,000 you've budgeted this year for paving projects. In addition to that, we're looking at possibly engaging the additional $108,000 that should come available to the town through the new penny sales tax, being that roads and paving and drainage and these related projects are all eligibly covered expenses under that. So that gives us a working total of $308 plus engineering fees to do our phased paving program for this current fiscal year. In the grading and observation, we have identified the following streets as our recommendation for milling and repaving, which would include Engle, West Anna, East Anna, Ridge, and that's the little ridge that's connected to those, not Ridge down by Don. Sorry, Don. Beachway, Harbor North, Harbor South, Island, Island South, Bonita, and Marlin Drives, roads, or streets. Appropriate monikers there. What we will do is, next Monday approximately, our subcontractor through the engineers are commencing with the borings on all these locations. They'll determine the condition and aging and other factors of the condition of the streets themselves to guarantee that we're either just doing a milling and overlay, or if there's something more substantive going on in the sub structure of the street, which will determine the final engineering specifications for the RFP. Lisa's firm is working with us on the RFP for these streets. We'll put that out as soon as that boring information is configured, and wait for the bids to come back in. Based on the level of those bids and where we think we'll end up, this is about 3.5 lane miles of streets that we could repave. If the prices are a little high because of the coring specifications, we might have to scale back some of the segments of these streets. If they come in favorably towards us, we might be able to expand this grid a little bit. So that'll depend on the final bidders under the RFP. So right now, based on projections, based on estimates, based on what we know, these are the streets we would propose to pave in this year's paving cycle. And we need your consensus on that, pending the final price tag that comes in from the bidder. All right, well, yeah, I thought this is already consensus. I mean, we just need to know what the prices are. We won't know that till the bids drop on us, which is
We have a resolution for an RFP
Well,
on the
I
streets.
thought we did that. Yeah, because that was the whole
So
point of
the only thing
putting
we
in the
care about
budget.
is when that report that Jeff's referring to is gonna come out, because then we can make a budget decision.
Right.
We can't do anything until we have that.
I have
We can't, I'm sorry, I was just going to say, we can't do that piece till the boring's done, because
Right.
that'll do our specs.
What about, Steve Cos, you brought up this traffic calming?
We're trying to get through the boring and the repaving.
Yeah.
And see where we're at, and then,
And then, because I know I've heard that are some of the streets that are under consideration, they've talked about traffic calming, and I'm not sure how that's going to affect the budgets and so on and so forth.
it
We
would
look
be,
at it.
hopefully it would be involved in the overall budget, but we, again, see this coring conditions, prep work, and staging costs, until we know that, you know, technically, we don't know if we can even pave.
So what do
That-
you need from us then?
We want to make sure that these streets, that there's no objection to these streets, because these are the ones we're coring and putting out for bid.
Well, I've traveled all of the streets through Harbor Drive. I haven't been down to Island and down to Merlin, but certainly there's a couple of them in there that are in pretty bad shape, and they seem to be at a lower level where the water is percolating up through the streets, so that's going to, in
Yeah,
my
it's just seen
mind,
at King Tides, it literally was
Yeah.
percolating up through the street.
So it makes
it's
you
going to
wonderful.
cost more than just
It was nice.
paving.
So, I got a question for Lisa. Lisa, I mean, in all your experience, what are we looking in at with this amount of money, are we looking at something that is feasible to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 streets?
It looks like it is feasible. We're hoping that all of it's going to be a typical mill and overlay,
Okay.
which would be fairly easy
Yeah.
and the least cost. But we have to make sure that, as Jamie had indicated, that we do the proper processes, and one of which is to investigate the subsurface. Especially in the Island Drive area, where we see settlement every year. That's particularly interesting to get that information. And so we do that first. And then once we get that information and the geotechnical engineer comes back with a recommendation as to the remedy for these streets, then we can come back to you and say, look, this is the remedy for all these streets, this one, this one, this one, this one. And then our estimate, we can then calculate our estimate to say to you, this is going to cost $200,000 or it's going to cost $400,000. We could set the RFP, the request for proposal, in such a way that we could do each section, or we can do one lump sum, so that we can get the biggest bang for the buck. And mobilize the contractor once. This list is set up in specific areas so that if we do an area individually, it does maximize the mobilization of a contractor. So a lot of things were taken into consideration when we made this list.
Okay.
And so hopefully we can get them all in this phase one.
All right, so my question to you, Jamie, is I noticed the marks in the street. I guess that's where the coring is going to happen?
Probably. They're in the process of doing underground locates. You know, they can't core in the asphalt until they call all the utility companies to locate their utilities.
Yeah, but somebody's already done a survey and already put marks in a lot of the roads where they're
Probably,
going to core.
that's where the locates.
How are we paying for that? Where's that coming out of?
That's coming, the Arteman contract, which is doing the coring, is coming out of the engineering number that's already budgeted in the capital projects for road paving.
All right, great. Okay, so you're going to bring the number back, you should have the numbers next month?
What we should have is the recommendations from the geotechnical engineer and an estimate back to you as to how many streets we could do within the limit, within that budgeted amount.
Great.
As an estimate, and then move forward with a request for proposal after that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
The actual paving project would take place in the summertime, early summer, so we're probably 2 months out at least before that physically begins.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, then the only unanticipated expense could be if the boring showed problems with the subsurface.
Correct.
And then we're going to have to figure out how much it's going to cost to repair the subsurface in addition to repaving the road.
Correct.
But you'll give us that number.
Yes.
Will we have that number for the next meeting?
We should, we should.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you don't
there's-
need anything from us now then, right?
Well, I mean, it was just, I guess, a clarification as to the commission's wishes to move forward with that first phase of roads, which we gave you last month and we're
Which
showing
we
you
don't know if we
again.
can do the entire first phase because we don't know the price. But when we know the price, we'll know if we can do the first phase. So we should wait till we get the price.
Right, as long as you're okay with the listing the way we have the listing now.
Well, we're okay with it
Yeah.
because you're the engineer, you got to tell us which streets are
Right.
Ds and As and Cs, so I guess we're okay. How can we not be okay with it?
I thought it was just very easy to understand
Yeah,
chart.
me too.
Yeah, I loved it.
D, C, C, everything's a C. We got a few As. We've got, let's see, Tropical Drive's an A, Hudson's an A, Eleuthera, and Thompson Street is an A. So those are A streets. So we shouldn't have to pave A streets, should we?
No way.
Not for a long time.
15 to 20 years.
They're A streets because they're the most recently paved, so
Thanks, Jamie.
that doesn't mean they're in great shape or have the same shelf life, we'll see.
Oh, boy. All right, any other questions for?
I'm here all
Sure.
week, matinee on Friday, thank you.
And then we want to get out here to see that championship game.
I'm trying.
But really, whoever's doing the scheduling, I've lived here a long time. Harbor Drive, north and south, have been paved twice since we've been there, with just the overlay. And then the construction vehicle comes in and tears it up. And we already have, one house is under construction for 3 years, and we got 2 more on the street. So I don't know how that works. Are they gonna lose their slot if you wait a while to do the paving?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You just want it done.
Keep talking, Terry.
The other thing is that I happen to have a occasion to speak to a potential buyer of a house on Engle. He decided not to buy the house because the house floor elevation is like at 3 feet. And the road is at sea level. I mean, is there something else you can do instead of slapping a coat of asphalt on there and try to beef that thing up and put, I mean, what are you gonna do?
I mean, if you raise the road, just pushing the water off into the neighbors in the yards.
Just a point I want to make. He didn't buy the house.
All right, yes, sir.
In regard to the paving of the streets,
Yes, sir.
on
Name, I'm sorry, Mr.
Inlet-
Fornatori, you got to do your name and address for the record again.
Pardon?
You got to do your name and address for the record again, I'm sorry.
Gilbert Fornatora, 7 Inlet K Drive. I've been there since 1978. And that street has been repaved and the whole dig up, and they did a whole drainage problem. But I have noticed that the repaving that's done, we don't raise the drainage gutters. So what's happening is you're getting crowns in these streets. So you'll notice that all of the houses down towards the end of this jelly, as you call it, the grades from the garage level down to the street, they're getting pretty steep because the streets are sinking. And when you just pave and increase the crown and not the gutters, then you can't back out of your driveway, which is what happened at my house. I could not get my car out of the driveway, which is why I had to put in a whole new driveway. But just to mention it, that there's a lot of paving to be done, but the level of the street is a question I've been asking for years. What is the level of a street that we can depend on? So for planning purposes of the building, what the differential is between the level that by code we're required to build to and what's the street going to be? I've never gotten an answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any kind of answer for that? I can put you on the spot.
Yeah, well, I mean, that island is complex, and the subsurface of that island is that of muck material. And unfortunately, when you improve roads on top of material that condenses over time, we have history of that road changing in elevation over the years. I mean, we've surveyed that road probably 3 times and have different elevations every time, so.
Yeah.
We try to do the best we can, and I remember working with you on your driveway, and we did the best we can, and we continue to do so to give everybody a good quality of life and keep up to the standard as best we can. But the reality is that those roads are sinking on that island.
Yep.
But the truth of the matter is, that eventually the road's going to sink enough so all the adjustments that have been made, the level is going to be where you're not going to be able to get cars out of the driveway at some point in the future. I may not be around to see it, but at some point, that road is.
Well, we had a problem on the Luther. We actually took the road out. It was $462,000. We tore the whole road out, rebuilt it, raised all the
Raised this
drainage
cul-de-sac
area up and
like
everything.
2 feet.
And we had to fix all the driveways there too.
The town paid
I
for
got the
it?
answer, but I'm just bringing out that the level of those gutters, because what's happening is the crown is creating an impossibility at one point to get cars backing out of the driveway. So eventually, it's going to be a major problem.
Yes, sir, which we'll have to fix. All righty. Any other questions regarding the road paving? So you have everything you need, right?
They'll be drilling on your street come Monday or
Yeah, right
next
in
week.
front of the house, so the dogs go crazy and.
Sorry, but like the bridge, it has to be done.
There is a mark right
Is
in
it?
front of your house.
Yeah, right dead in front of the house. Okay, resolution of the Town Commission is electing a mayor. What do you guys want to do?
I would like to make a motion that we re-elect Jeff Pugh.
Second.
Thank you very much.
You've done a great job.
All right, there's a motion second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. You know, I'll keep putting my 2 cents in for everything I got. All right, the resolution number 2017-05, resolution of the Town Commission, Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, electing a vice mayor.
I make a motion that we stay with Jim Bonfiglio as vice mayor.
I second.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, number 13, resolution 2017-6, resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Ocean Ridge designating depositories, authorizing treasurer or deputy treasurer to sign town checks, authorizing any one of the 5 town commissioners to countersign checks. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I move that we adopt.
Wait, here, we move, second?
Second it.
Don beat you. Motion is second. Any other, any other
He's gunning for
discussion?
my move-in spot.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. First reading of ordinances. All right. This is ordinance number 620. This ordinance of the Town of Ocean Ridge amending its code of ordinances by amending Chapter 64 zoning Article 3 supplemental regulations by creating 64-60 decks, patios, steps, stoops, and terraces, unenclosed and uncovered, to provide for setbacks, providing for codification, repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and an effective date. Brian, do you want to expand on this?
Okay, basically, this ordinance has been seen by your Planning and Zoning Commission. They had a recommendation of approval for this ordinance. And what it does, it provides for a 3-foot setback as far as a patio deck or a pool deck. And then we've got a few other terms in there too that would apply as well, such as the steps and stoops, but it shall not apply if the deck is adjacent to a seawall. And the reason that we've kind of, pardon me?
No, I was just...
Oh, okay. And the reason that we've kind of come up with this, we've gotten a couple of complaints of where adjacent property owners, where there have been pool decks that have been built right up to the property line, and then there's a difference in elevation, and it creates some issues with adjacent property owners on how to deal with it. And then also, I'm sure Lisa can expound on this, is just the stormwater issue of the requirement that you have to maintain the stormwater on your property. And then I guess there's the other aspect of you can't have the stormwater going to the pool, so it's got to be, slanted the other way. But then how do we accomplish that if the deck is right up to the property line? So those are the reasons.
So pretty much, you don't want everybody building, Ocean Ridge is one of the only towns that has that, where you can build your deck on the side to the property line. So what happens is I guess if you're a builder, and I guess there's a lot of what we're doing, people are building homes, and they build a home, and the builder builds a home, and he builds a deck all the way to the property line. He's putting the onus on the neighbor to fence it, put the landscaping in and everything else. So by putting the side setbacks in at 3 feet, it makes them do a little more of the work as well. Is that pretty much in a nutshell?
Yes, sir.
Is there any public comment on this ordinance? All right.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 620 as set forth, item number 14 in our agenda tonight.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, last ordinance, number 621, an ordinance of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, amending its code of ordinances by amending Chapter 64 zoning, Article 3 supplemental regulations, temporary structures. To clarify the regulations regarding temporary structures, building and building regulations, Article 1 in general, to provide for and clarify existing regulations governing construction sites, providing for codification, repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and effective date. This is what we were talking about earlier, Stella. This is where you come in. So go ahead, Brian.
Basically, once again, this ordinance has also been to your Planning and Zoning Commission, and they did recommend approval of this particular ordinance along with the construction handbook that is attached to this. Now, as you notice, the ordinance adopts the construction handbook. However, you will not adopt the construction handbook this evening. On second reading, that's when I'll ask for a separate motion to adopt the construction handbook. The reason that we have some of the language in the construction handbook and not in the ordinance is that way in the future, if we need to change some of the regulations in the construction handbook, we can just bring that forward to you. It's not an ordinance, it's not 2 readings. We can just say we would recommend you make these changes or whatever, and then that way you all can take a look at that. What we may end up doing prior to that is we may run that by P&Z first to get their input and then bring that to you, but it's not going to take 2 readings. But what the ordinance provides is the ordinance we've kind of provided and added some other requirements as far as the cleanliness of construction sites, such as specific requirements to store material and pick up trash. And then we've also added a section in here on temporary construction fences that provides when the fence must be erected, its size, screening requirements, and when it must be removed. I've also have a section in here that basically provides that the fence shall only be on the public right-of-way side or next to public right-of-way unless, you have to have a fence up there unless the building, provided that the other sides of the the other side of the property are adequately screened, whether it's by an existing fence or by vegetation. Unless the building official determines that, no, we need to have a construction fence up completely around all 4 sides of the site. So that's going to be a call for the building official to kind of make as far as, okay, do you need to put up the fence on all sides, or can we just have it on the front of the property? There's also the provisions as far as the ingress and egress requirements for the construction site. They've got to have a gate, it's got to be locked. We also further clarify and provide in here the MPDS requirements, which is the silt barrier, as far as those requirements, that in order, they would have to meet those. So if a barrier is required, they would have to put that up. There's the tree protection requirements, which is already in your code, but I've made reference to it in this section here, so that way when a builder comes in, we kind of have everything in one place here for the contractor to take a look at and understand what they have to meet. We've added the section on construction and storage trailer regulations, or we kind of modified that, which we've really specified that, okay, a permit's going to be required. If you're going to have a construction trailer on the site, you have to get approval from the building official, and then there are certain time limits for that construction trailer, as long as it, as far as the length of time it can be on the site. We've also provided for some things in here on the issuance of permits and the establishment of fees for permits. And what my suggestion is, and what this provides for, is that as far as the fees go, that you have a resolution where you adopt a certain set, a set of fees for the town, and therefore it's not in an ordinance, but we have all of that in a resolution. So if those fees need to be changed or added to, then you can do that at one, just at one meeting. You can modify the fees as far as that goes. There are certain regulations that I've added as far as construction abandonment and the penalties. Now, as far as the construction site management handbook, the other provision in here that, I think you all will probably be talking about more, and that I will need direction on from you, is parking in the right-of-way, which my understanding there's been, certain issues that have come up in the town as far as construction vehicles parking in the right-of-way. So I'm not talking about service vehicles. This ordinance only addresses construction vehicles where there's an active permit that is taking, that is pulled for that property. Right now, the ordinance provides that any parking in the right-of-way is prohibited, and if I'm not mistaken, you already kind of have an ordinance in place that doesn't allow for parking in the right-of-way. However, we do allow parking in the right-of-way for construction vehicles. The construction management handbook provides, it goes into further detail on most of the topics that I spoke about. However, on the parking issue, it provides that parking in the right-of-way is not allowed unless the building official approves it, which the process that we are coming up with, or we would like to implement, is that basically at the start of the job, the contractor, and that's part of the requirements in the construction handbook too, the contractor would have to come in and would have to show the building official or show a representative of the town, here's the plan, here's where the portalet's going to be, here's where my fence is going to be, here's where my parking is going to be, here's where the storage of materials is going to be, and also here's where my parking is going to be. Now, if the contractor shows that and says, okay, all my parking is going to be on site, there's no issue for the building official to make a determination on. However, it's my understanding that a lot of the sites that you have here are rather small, and that parking all construction vehicles on site might create some issues. So if the contractor wants to park some vehicles off-site, which would generally mean in the public right-of-way, if they want to park them at some other place that's outside of your limits, this doesn't, we don't care about that. This doesn't apply to that. But if they want to use the right-of-way, the construction management handbook provides that the building official can give them some relief. So what I'm asking you is basically some direction that I can come back with on second reading, either modifying the construction management handbook or modifying the ordinance, or possibly coming up with some further verbiage on how to deal with that issue.
You could have a fee-based, I know you brought this up, and Jamie, a fee-based right-of-way permit. Like, let's say that there were two available, like if you're down in some of the streets like Ocean View and Douglas, there's no way that equipment can do anything but be in the right-of-way. It's impossible to build anything. So I would think this gentleman, the building official, whoever that ends up being, as we seem to be moving in a different direction, would have the authority to provide those.
And
When
we
he-
can certainly go that route if you want.
Brian, we had talked about like a parallel process for them to apply for additional permits, for additional parking. And then you also had mentioned that when one of the houses was being constructed, they actually leased some of the spots from Boynton at their public beach. So maybe we could put that recommendation in the construction handbook, hey, if you need additional parking, it's available by renting spaces from the town of Boynton Beach, and they can park there. That might be something you might want to add to the handbook too, to tell them, you don't want to go through this permitting process and get a couple extra spots. You can go to the town of Boynton Beach and pay the daily parking fee over at their beach. And so they can't say, we didn't know about that,
I think the problem is gonna be in some of the streets, like Stella mentioned Osprey Drive, they're gonna need the plumbing truck there because the plumbing truck has the pipes, and then they're not gonna fit. They're
Yeah,
gonna
but
have to go
they're also
into
going to have,
right away.
the workers. I mean, the workers need.
The workers are a different case. I'm looking at, is it gonna be a necessity in certain streets in town to actually get a house built? They're going to have construction, plumbers, electricians,
Right.
cement trucks in the right of way. And if this gentleman, the building official, has the authority to provide those.
Well, that's what I was talking about, the parallel, get extra permits.
Two things, right?
Two
You
things,
either
yes. I'm talking about two different things, yes.
Yeah, the workers could be at the public beach or
Right.
over the bridge, wherever.
Right,
And
exactly.
the actual construction vehicles would have to have a permit.
You get the extra permit, and we could probably create a parallel system. When you come in and you apply, you think you're gonna need a plumbing vehicle there and an electrician's vehicle there, you can get 2 extra permits to park in the right-of-way and, charge them a fee for it, and run it parallel with the permitting process. Am I saying that, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes, I do. I guess one of the questions I have, is there any thought on, do you want any caps on the number of permits a building official may issue, or any direction on, okay, you can only park in certain areas, and that's, of course, that is further limiting, the contractor's ability to park vehicles or have a number of vehicles there, but those are the only other thoughts that I can come up with. If you have any further direction on that, if you don't, we can certainly, the building official can look at that, and we can leave it to his or her discretion as far as how they would like to
There's so many
treat that.
unique
Yeah.
streets in town that anything you put down on paper, like, let's say you can only park on one side of the road, but you don't really care about that. You care that the road's not obstructed. So any tweaking, I think we're gonna.
We're gonna have to leave it to the
problems
building
down the road.
officials'
Right.
discretion, on the number of extra permits and where they can park, because we have so many.
We definitely want to limit the amount of permits for the building official should know he should only have so many permits. But see, the permit is a blanket permit, so the contractor can use that same permit for his plumber, he can use it for his,
Right.
what's his name guy, this,
He's got
cabinet
two-
guy,
he's got
whatever
two
else.
spots.
But he's got 2 spots. See, the biggest thing here is just to make sure that construction happening doesn't adversely affect the neighbors who are having to deal with the construction. So the building official needs to be the one to make that case when they see the plans and they see they approve the permit. And that way it gives the chief, if he's got 2 permits, then he can have enforcement. He can go over there, and if there's 10 cars going all the way down the road running, donuts in these people's front yards, he can start issuing tickets. So shouldn't there be a certain number we should allow?
My guess is yes, probably. But, how do you,
It depends on,
it's gonna depend on where the building is. The building is happening.
Well,
But we're only
I should-
talking the actual vehicles that are actively
yeah,
involved
that's
at
it.
that
It should
moment.
not exceed a certain number. I mean, say
That's-
4
Well, the-
permits should be, think of each
Your
car.
problem arises when you get close to the end and everybody's jammed up and like everybody's
Yeah, but
gotta
see,
finish up.
I disagree with that, because what that is a managing of your job problem.
I'm disagreeing with you.
Okay, what they do, they try to jam it in there so they can get the job done, and they can get everybody out of there, and they can, because the longer it's on the job, the less money you make. So.
2's probably a good number, because if if you're gonna have 7 or 8, and you're an oceanfront mansion building a 25,000 square foot, you certainly have, with the FAR, you certainly have enough room on site to park all the
Absolutely.
equipment. So you're talking the small lots, the 6,500, 7,500 lots. So I guess we could put it at 2 and then adjust it later.
Well, you can put it at 2, and then if the building official finds that that's not gonna be adequate, he can
Right.
make the suggestion to change it.
Or, I mean, do you want me to put it at, well, it doesn't matter on the size of the lot, because it almost seems like you would want to limit it less, the smaller the lot, because probably that's gonna be the smaller the road, and you don't want, you know, that many, but I don't know, I mean, like for larger homes or larger lots, I don't know if you want to allow more parking, if you want to kind of mirror like, what the FAR kind of looks at, where it's like 7,500 square feet, you're allowed this, but if you're, say, above 7,500, then you're allowed X number. I don't know, I'm just throwing this stuff out, so.
Well, the larger the lot, the less
Right.
amount of parking.
The
less,
Yeah,
So,
the more you should be able to do it on site.
right.
If we put it in as 2 and it creates a problem, we can change it in 1 meeting, right?
Well,
Or 2 meetings.
let me go ahead, what I may try to do is put that in the construction management handbook and do that, which you adopt anyway, which would bind the building official, and I can do it there, and then that way, if you need to change it, you can change it at 1 meeting.
Oh, great.
And do that.
No, it's up to the building official too.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. Stella, come on up.
Stella Kolb, 204 Beachway. I was wondering if in this book that you're writing, the code book, the handbook, I seem to think that, you know, we're not being protected as homeowners. And I don't know legally if you can do anything about somebody, you know, going over this man's lawn and we're breaking my septic or whatever. But just in the kindness of this town, is there something you can put in strong language in that book that maybe might get across to someone saying, please consider your neighbor, you are responsible for grass, you're responsible for whatever, whether they pay or not is a different issue. And the town wouldn't be responsible for that, but maybe some kind of strong language to make these builders know that, you know, they've just ruined my septic tank and my septic field, and I have to pay for it. If it's possible, okay?
Well, yeah, say some, I understand. So say something like, you will be responsible for any damage created on the adjoining property owners.
It's actually in number 9 under trucks, but I don't know if it applies to all vehicles.
Well, that's what I was going to kind of address. I think what we can try to do, and I knew we had something in there, but we can kind of clarify it.
If I
there
may,
we go.
Item 1 of Section 4, Rules and Regulations in the Construction Handbook specifically address off-site damage.
All right, there you go. Yes, ma'am.
Cheryl Olenoff, 566 David Lane. If anyone knows about construction around their house, I do. And right now, across the street, I've had cement trucks and 4 pickup trucks and people on my side everywhere. When they see me coming, they move. But there's nowhere. You know, it's like the cement truck clean their cement into the drainage. I still haven't heard about that, if they found out what they're going to do about the drainage, you know, like with the cement being there. Then then pickup truck, when they had cement all over, the pickup truck went over the cement, backed into my driveway, left cement tracks in my driveway, all across the road, you know, and then there's the house beside that was painting. Thank God, this is the first time I caught them, and the police came, and they were putting paint down the drain, and the policeman there was so great. Thank you so much. He actually made them open the drain and siphon all of it out and shovel everything out of the drain. So, but so many times, you know, I've seen that same house on the corner of David Lane And you know, you can't catch them, you can't be there all the time. But I see paint marks, you know, all around the drains. So I think a big problem is with the construction site is all these people cleaning their equipment over our drain fields. And, you know, you have to catch them. But I don't know, there's cars, trucks everywhere. I have cones. I come home and the cones are all knocked over. You know, so I don't know what the, you know, I know it's just been a nightmare for me with construction. And I know if the house besides me on the north side wants to start construction, I'm ready to move because it's so unpleasant. And I'd love to see no construction on Saturday. You know, give us 2 days of peace and quiet. You know, it's ridiculous.
There's actually been discussions about that, and that might come up in the future meetings as an actual item. It gets problematic.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. All right,
I
Brian.
think we do have a section here that makes them responsible for cleaning up
yeah.
concrete spills, paint spills.
Hey, but like I say, Cheryl says you gotta catch them.
Yeah.
That,
Right.
That's the problem.
well, if there's concrete hardening on.
Yeah, but even so, you gotta actually, you know.
With respect to Ms. Olenoff's comments, I believe the commission in their discussions with me on this issue recognize her frustrations as well as a lot of others. I think that this particular ordinance in this construction handbook is geared specifically at, with all due respect, solving your problem and solving Stella's problems. And then go forward, unfortunately.
And that's where the full-time building official comes into play, because then we have someone specifically dedicated to following up on all these things and, you know, watching and making sure they don't dump the paint in the sewer or they don't spill the concrete on the next
Well,
door
he's here
neighbor's
all the
front lawn.
And Jerry,
All right.
thanks a lot for your input on this, too.
All right, I move that we adopt ordinance number 621 as set forth item number 15 in our agenda tonight.
Second?
Motion and second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, that's about it. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Great meeting.